Hey guys, Tab Wakely here with Real Michigan Anglers, and today I want to show you one of my favorite suspending jerkbaits, the River2Sea Trophy Minnow. The Trophy Minnow comes in three sizes, 78, 98, and 108. They come in two bill shapes. We have the D shape and the U shape. Compare them. The D is the wider, the deeper diving version, and the U is the shallower running version. So, this is a 78. This is the small size. This is the next size up, the 98. So, the 108 is bigger. Let me grab a 108 here. That's the 108. So the 108 to me is a little too big for most of my situations, but I definitely want to troll some big lakes with those eventually, so those are going to be nice. But for the rivers that I fish locally that range anywhere from 2 to 15 feet, but mostly in the 4 to 6 range, I like these two, the U shape in the middle size and the D shape in the small size. The U shape in my mind is pretty comparable to the Rapala Shadow Wrap shallow variation. However, I believe these actually suspend a little deeper, and they have this tungsten weight bearing thing that kind of keeps them really level. And then the deeper diving variation, the D shape, I would say is comparable to a Shadow Wrap Deep. The big difference between these and the Shadow Wraps, and it's especially true with the D shape, the wobble on these is really tight. It creates a lot of vibration. That rattle's going on. It's really comparable to the tight wobble that you get from a square bill crankbait almost, but with a suspending stick bait. So when you're doing a straight retrieve with these guys, it's just an excellent crankbait, but if you stop, it stops dead in its tracks right where it is and suspends. The deepest ones go upwards of 15 feet, and these ones are supposed to go around 3, I believe, or the smallest size in the U goes to a max of 3. So between all of the variations, you have a range of depths between 3 foot and 15 foot that you can target. These ones I think are generally in the 3 to 5 or 3 to 7 range. The very first time I ever used one of these, it was the dead of winter, and I actually bought just a ton of them in bulk because I found them for $3 a pop, and they're normally over 10, I believe, a piece. So I just dropped a bunch of money and bought a bunch of them, and I took one out and I went to a river hole that's like 10 foot deep, and I just casted it out and was just dead sticking it, just letting it sit for like 10, 20, or 30 seconds at a time and twitching it. And every time I dead sticked it for more than 10 seconds and twitched it, I was picking up bites. And I actually caught, I think, 3 really nice smallies that were all over like 16 inches, and it was like 5 degrees out that day. So that was a great example of how awesome they are for suspending a deep hole in the river, because they really just stall out right in place and just drift with that current, and the fish comes up and sees this thing drifting and starts to hone in on it, and then it's kind of getting close and watching it, and then you give it that twitch and it just can't help but just attack it the second it twitches. So very deadly for dead sticking and suspending in rivers. These guys have what we call a tungsten force weight transfer system, and if you see here, we have a ball bearing, and that slides all the way over and locks in down here and stays there. And I believe when you twitch it, you can actually dislodge it and make it change. So if you want to control how it's suspending, you can do that with twitching. But the idea is, it adjusts to the current and always stays nice and level instead of kind of floating nose up or floating tail up. and getting tangled, your line is always, you know, coming up straight, and it's always sitting pretty much like this when suspending. And you can see we've got a couple other weights here and then some loose ones here for that extra rattle. So these things are really noisy, attracting a lot of attention, but then you dead stick them and they go completely silent. And as soon as you give it that twitch, you know, those bearings start moving around and making a lot of racket. So that's a large reason as to why these things work so well. The three favorite colors I have are these three, although I've caught fish on most of the colors that I bought. Some of the lures I lost before I got a chance to really catch something with them, but on this color I've caught pike, walleye, bass, and white bass. And I've caught bass and pike on these colors as well. I've had a lot of success with this one as opposed to some other suspending crankbaits in particular situations where there's high current or you're in an elevated area, so fishing around dams and stuff. This one stays down really well when suspending, so a lot of times what I do is I just cast perpendicular to the river and just let it sink down and just let it drift, and sometimes I'll give it a little twitch here and there, but I just kind of work it and just let it bounce off of rocks and stuff, and that tends to work really well for me. So in your quest for the ultimate suspending crankbait, make sure you give the River2Sea Trophy Minnow a try, and let me know if you have some success with these guys, because I'm pretty sure you will. Thanks for watching.
Probably because he almost got a hook in the eyeball. There we go. It's a decent little smallie. Very feisty. Get a picture of him and toss him back in there. Bet I can get another one. I just switched lures. I was casting a spinner. Now I'm tossing a jerkbait. Or a suspending crankbait. Looks like this. Same color as the fish. Probably thought it was a little bass. Let's get you back in there, boy.